Welcome to DefineURadio After Dark Conversations, where real people have unfiltered conversations about the topics that influence the way we think, feel, and move. Each week with your host, Valencia Griffin Wallace.
Welcome to DefineURadio After Dark Conversations. I am your host, Valencia Griffin Wallace, and today we are discussing how to reset, recuperate, recover, in the words of Queen Lavon, in 2021. With that being said, joining the conversation is Queen Donna Barnes. You've heard her voice before. Queen Donna, go ahead and say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. We made it to 2021.
And it's starting off with a bang. But before we go there, let's kind of go back to 2020. How can people mentally release the stress of 2020? Because it was a crazy year that it went by fast and slow at the same time.
It did. And I think COVID had a lot to do with it. Everyone was more so in a panic state of mind. And I think in order to mentally restart or reset from that, I think it's going to take us embracing how we felt during that time. So kind of like reflecting. We definitely have to reflect on 2020 and everything that has happened. And we got to try to embrace how we feel, but also try not to bring it with us to 2021. Yes, COVID is still here, but we know the necessary precautions we have to take. We know what we need to do to stay safe. So what may be working for my family might not work for someone else's family. So I think it's going to be very important for us to assess that and become aware of what we need in 2021, because we can't change anything that has happened in 2020. And we're not going to forget those things that happened in 2020. But I do definitely think that we have to try to move forward and put 2020 behind us so we can be able to function and navigate in 2021.
Good advice. Good advice. Because I know I've seen different memes, and some of them, like one of them I saw was like 2018 to 2019, then 2021, like completely like throw the whole year away of 2020. But I think some lessons were learned in 2020 that we would not have otherwise gotten,
I agree. And that's the thing too, because a lot of people, what's the word? Put everyone in a collective box. Oh, 2020 was bad for us all. You cannot say that, because 2020 wasn't bad for everybody, because 2020 was good for some. 2020, some people were able to come up financially. 2020, some people were able to spend time with their kids. 2020, some people was able to become aware of what they needed to work on and what they needed to change. So we did have some deaths in 2020, a lot of deaths because of COVID-19. But at the same time, we can't say that it was a bad year because of those deaths.
What if you had a great year? Let's say you prospered financially, maybe started, an online business, because of course that space is definitely picking up. But a close friend or family member, like their year was like garbage. How do you have, that conversation? Do you just not say anything about how great the year might have been for you?
Well,
because it's like you don't want to make the other person feel bad, but if 2020 wasn't as bad for you, do you just, hop on their 2020 was garbage bus, or like, how would you handle that?
well, and I did tell some of my friends that, because I had some friends that had COVID-19. I didn't have it, but I had them that has it. So when it comes to conversations like that, we could hear them out. We could definitely hear them out. We could try to understand how they feel. But if we've never been in their shoes, then of course we're not going to really know how they feel. But then, too, your story is different than my story. And being okay with the fact that we have different stories, we have different perceptions of how the year turned out. So yeah, your year might have been bad, but how can we look at the positive? I try to be a positive person, so I always try to get people to see the positive side of things. So yeah, they had COVID in 2020, but boom, you made it to 2021 because there was a lot of people that didn't. So I definitely try to get them to recognize the positive. I wouldn't say gloat because you were doing good. It was a good year for you, but I definitely would let them know. I would share my side of the story just so they can see that little bit of hope.
Because I know I've had conversations, especially around the holidays, of, with people that were struggling financially still. And that wasn't, that's not my story. I don't know, like when we talked previously on the show, me and I think the last show we did, me, Queen Shannon and Levon, about, things we learned in 2020 and different things like that. But one of the things that they said, and we all recognize, it was like I really started to slow down in 2018 and 2019 in a whole lot of areas of my life. So when 2020 happened, it wasn't a big like shock for me. It wasn't that I was, like I was more prepared than I thought. I just didn't. Honestly, it was like I was used to doing certain things and everybody else would be like at work or somewhere else. So it was more of an inconvenience because it's like, okay, now everybody else is in my space, so to speak. Um, what was the biggest lesson you came out of 2020 with?
The biggest lesson for me was time. Time isn't guaranteed. You need to create more memories with your son.
Mm. So did the downtime of 2020 allow you to do that?
The downtime did. It allowed me to be home because when I was working for my employer, I was able to be at home with him. I was able to help him get on at school virtually, as well as me working home for virtually. So I was I was present. And I wouldn't have been present if I still had to go to my job in Ascension every day because I was working 10-hour shifts.
Mm. Speaking of children, kids are now having to do online school. They're not able to hang with their friends. And from an adult perspective, it's like, it just seems like the world has gone crazy. And kids see that, of course, because they're on social media and different things like that. How do you approach the topic of anxiety and those things, like with your child? How do you address it? Because I think a lot of adults, we're caught up in our own feelings and how it's affecting us. And, thinking the kids are enjoying it because some of them are not having to physically go to school.
Yeah.
So how do you have those conversations with your children?
I know for me, like I try to have these real conversations with my son already, like before the pandemic. But I do believe that it's important to let your children know, hey, it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to worry. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, or it's even okay to feel stressed. However, what can we do, or how can I help to make you feel more relaxed, to make you feel more calm so you don't worry as much? And then I also teach most of my kids reality based facts. Like we have to look at the facts. When we worry, will worrying really help us in the situation, or will worrying really hinder us in the situation and keep us in that state of mind? So we got to look at Is it going to help me? How is it going to benefit me? Or how is it going to be a disadvantage to me? And it's easier said than done, but I definitely
Right.
think that we have to get our kids to deep breathe. We have to tell our kids, because they don't know, but sometimes we're going to have to tell them, I understand that you're worrying, but this is nothing to worry about because there's nothing we could do. We have to realize what's out of our control and what's within our control.
That's that's something, how I'm built. I don't do well with things that are not in my control.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, there's the whole serenity prayer thing, and I know you're supposed to accept things you can't change. But like you said, that's definitely easier said than done. But see, the way I'm made up,
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the hardest things for me to accept is, things I can't do
Control.
anything about.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the serenity prayer. And that's one of the things that had really helped me. What I did, I typed up the serenity prayer in a Word document. I printed it in one of my favorite colors, and then I posted it on my wall. That way, when I did have those moments of frustration, of feeling overwhelmed, of being stressed, I looked up at that serenity prayer and I said it to myself. And I'm like, okay, you cannot change this, because we know what we can't change. We can't change people. We can only change ourselves and
Right.
our behaviors. So we have no control over other people. So it's a repetitious type thing that we have to do. We have to be consistent with letting ourselves know if a situation arises and we cannot change it, I have no control over
Mm. I'm glad this is a recording versus a video recording.
it.
I'm working on that. There is alternate, a alternative version of the Serenity Prayer,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't think of it right now. I'm gonna have to find it and like post it, on social media, and then I'll tag you in. But basically, it's almost like, damn the things I can't change, I'm gonna change everything. It doesn't say that, but that's like it's like the Serenity Prayer plus. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to find it and post it. Hopefully, I can find it. So,
Yes.
this whole social distancing thing,
Mm-hmm.
do you see where, do you think it's causing like an emotional distance? Do you think it's helping us get rid of some people that we need to be emotionally distanced from? Like, what are your whole thoughts with social distancing and how it's affecting emotional distance?
Well, I would say both of those two things that you named. So social distancing is hard, especially for an extrovert. Like, we're not used to social distance. We're used to being in the crowd, being a part of, just being social. So I think when it comes to someone being an extrovert, it definitely can be um, emotionally challenging because it's something we're not used to. But also, when we look at introverts, it's only hard with the social distance because now we're forced. So an
Mhm,
introvert usually voluntarily stays away, but now you're forcing me. So it's like I'm involuntarily told that I have to social distance. So for
mhm,
that, I think it's more so of that, okay, now I'm forced to stay away. So if I did want to go out, I can't, you know. But I do feel, and this is me, to each his own with the social distancing. COVID, COVID-19, I feel like it's real. I do know it's real. I do know a lot of people have lost their life over it. If you're sick, stay home. Don't even come out and talk about wearing a mask or have your hand sanitizer. No, just stay home if you're sick. But I feel like I have to still live my life. So I'm still on the go. I found reasons to go to the grocery store. I still took all the necessary precautions, but I found reasons to get out the house because it's hard staying somewhere cooped up looking at the four walls, and that's something that you're not used to. When you're constantly on the go and now you have to stay in one place, it's very hard.
Mm. I think with me, people that I know that are extroverts, they like, damn this. Like, okay, I'm a stay in one place 6.5 days, but it's quite interesting. But I think I'm I'm an introvert, and I have to tell people that. And it's something I've always said, but a lot of people, because especially when I was hot and heavy speaking and here, there, and everywhere, people didn't understand how I can be an introvert, and I'm doing that. I was like, I can't explain it, but my preference is me being at home in my own little world.
Mm-hmm.
But that other side of me, that you not gonna tell me what to do side of me, was like, you taking my choice away of if I did want to get out. So I love that you said that, because it was hard for me, but in a different way. It was hard for me, or it's hard for me because I don't like being told what to do. I don't like having to feel like, I have to question everything. Like, if I want to go visit my aunt, or things like that, it's like, okay, I don't know who all she had in her house. I don't know this. It's like so many questions to where it start almost causing anxiety,
Mm. That's that, yeah.
you
But that's
know?
that thing you can't control.
Well, we gonna be outside and stay your 6 feet. Stay,
Yeah.
especially because I don't stay in the same city as my family. It's like I was already out here, quote unquote, by myself. And now it's like I can't even, like, I'm really by myself.
Mhm.
So that's definitely a battle. But as far as like going to, get groceries or anything of that nature, I was already getting them delivered. I was already doing the pickup. If I go in Walmart, like, I hate it. And this was before COVID. Like, I like being in my own space. Like, if I could put a bubble,
Mhm. You would.
but I don't know. I tell people, I'm an Aquarius, a 100% Aquarius, and you would have to know all what that entails to understand. It's it's not like I'm antisocial, but I'm not really social
Mhm.
at times. Most of the time, 99.9% of the time.
And I think you got to
So,
pick who you're social with nowadays.
right, definitely. And I think what COVID turned everybody into an Aquarius. Everybody has turned into me. I think because if they have sense, because just not really wanting to be around people. Because I wouldn't say I was a germaphobe, but the biggest thing that bothered me is stuff I was already buying. I had a hard time finding.
Mhm.
So I'm like, people just now deciding to wash their hands and do things I was already doing. So that kind of aggravated me a little bit. But
Yeah, because that's something we should have been doing,
right. I mean, I always was one of those people. Like, I watched a lot of documentaries and stuff, and I would even tell my son, like, don't touch my face because I don't know what skin flakes coming off of your hand onto my face. And I'm telling you, I've watched documentaries way before this too much. That's how I know too much random stuff. Um so with that being said, do you think that people really realize, like, who was important and who wasn't? Like, how did it affect, you could either speak from personal experience or people, like friendships and family relationships?
I think it was an eye opener all around. I would definitely say that it was an eye opener. A lot of people said 2020 the year of vision or clear vision and things like that, and that's exactly what we got. We might not have wanted it the way that we got it, but that's exactly what we were speaking the whole year. What I would definitely say is it does help you recognize who is important to you and what is important to you, in a sense, because as we could see, life is too short, and we don't have time to waste. But that's also, to me, for me, I also feel like I don't have time to stress now, because my life could be taken at any moment. And when it's time for me to go, that's one thing I don't want to be, is stressed. So I don't have time. So for me, it's more so of, you're going to do whatever it is that you're going to do. And I'm going to feel how I'm going to feel. And then that's going to be that. But it's my decision on whether I decide whether I'm putting up with you or not. So in a sense, it did, it definitely gave me some time to see what's important, who's important, and I don't need to entertain anything that's not.
I agree 150%. Because I don't think people give 2020 enough credit, because they're looking at all the negatives. But one thing I said is kind of like getting that fresh pair of contacts, or you finally get the right prescription in your glasses and you seeing stuff that was already there, but now you're actually able to see it and see it clear to where you can't deny it. So to me, it was still, the year of vision, revelation, however you want to say it. But it's just like, if you've been denying stuff was existing, this whole time, 2020 made it to where you can't deny it. My only question is, does my passport still work if need be? Because I told my husband, because I do want to touch on the events, what was that, 2 days ago, with the people, and I'm using air quotes, decided to run up in Congress. That was a Congress building, right? Yeah,
The state capitol.
Y'all know what I'm saying, right? So when you think, like, a lot of people are in that mindset, we over the hump, you know what I'm saying? 2020 is done. And then you get this foolery on, 6 days into the new year. And I was thinking about that and talking. I mean, you can't help but see it. And it's crazy because I was on Twitter, Black Twitter. Feel how you want, audience. So the memes were hilarious. And me and my husband was talking about it, and I was like, I just can't seem to care. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like 2020 took so much mental strength to make it through all right. Number one, I was not surprised. And number two, because a lot of people, I saw a lot of people putting, if it were Black people, da 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 da. We all know that some things don't need to be said to be understood. And one of the things I said, it was quite interesting that they waited to the stimulus, the stimulus went through and most people had gotten their second stimulus.
They knew when to do it.
Exactly. And so it's like you telling your kids or telling your friends, or y'all talking about like the worst is over, 2020 is done, now we're on recovery mode. And then you get this foolishness pumping the timelines. And I have zero. Like, I have zero, and that's my personal feelings about that.
I would say, and that's the thing for me too, because when you scroll up and down the timelines, it's like, y'all don't, Lord forgive me, because people are able to feel how they feel, but I don't understand why this was such a shock. why it wasn't expected. It's Trump. He has the whole 4 years, he has done some unexpected things. So why would this behavior be unexpected? And I think for me, it leaves me feeling unbothered because I already
Right.
knew something would happen. So why are we getting our panties in a bunch over something we should have expected? So we know if those people rambush the state capitol, they're not going to shoot their own people. They're not going to do that. The police is not going to do that. That's why we have the Black Lives Movement, because the police do it to us. So what made you think that the police would do it to them? Like, what gave you that inclination? Like, where was your mindset to even think that? Of course they wasn't going to do it. So I don't understand why it was a shock. So that leaves me, feeling unbothered. I usually don't comment on Facebook because that would be my response.
I agree 100% because I have several comments and just real life reality observations and everything else that it's like my fingers are itching to post, but I was like, that's just too much energy for me.
It is.
And even the people that was like, well, I don't understand why the police weren't responding, or where were the police and everything else. And I saw this somewhere and I was telling my husband and I said, everybody may not get it when they hear it the first time, but you're going to think about it and be like, okay, I get it. You never see, if you were a 90s baby or 2000, whatever, whenever Hannah Montana was on, never saw Miley Cyrus and Hannah Montana in the same place because they're the same person. So I say that to say, no doubt in my mind that we were dealing with Miley Cyrus and Hannah Montana. They're not gonna fight each other. They're not gonna, like, oh, okay, I know who that dude is. I work with him, or to each his own. I'm just saying, like, let's stop acting shocked and surprised because you are causing yourself more mental anxiety than's necessary.
Exactly. And I do agree with that. And the thing about it is, for one, it's in Washington, D.C. We in Louisiana, but it's only so much we can do. So I think we did what we felt we could do, and that was to go vote, and he didn't win. But it's going to take us doing it every time. We can't just let up just because, Biden's in office now. No, we're going to have to hold Biden to a certain standard too, because Biden is still not one of us.
That part, as Queen Shannon say, all I need to know is what countries are allowing, because I've been got my passport. I just need to know what countries, because I was telling my husband, literally, I said, we ain't gonna be able to go nowhere. They, people just looking at even a response from other leaders in other countries, and I'm like, they're gonna be like, you can't come here. You don't have to go home, but you're not coming here. And it's interesting and it's crazy, and I hope people are documenting it in some way, shape, or form, so 200 years from now they're gonna be like, what the heck? I'm writing about other experiences, so I don't have time for the foolishness. But before we kind of pivot back to mental health, I want to get your opinion on this, because I've seen a lot of quote unquote media saying like President Trump is going to go down as the worst president in history. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
I don't know, because I think everyone's entitled to their opinion. But to me, and it's just like, whether he goes down as the worst president or not, what benefit is it for me?
Right.
That's how I look at it. But if you ask me, yeah, he shouldn't have been president anyway. But that's what happens when sometimes we all don't go out and vote. But I definitely will say, for me, he was like, I don't even consider the fact that he was my president. He was
Mhm.
in term, he was in office, but he didn't do anything that benefited me. Just like he wanted them to approve a $2,000 stimulus for us the second time. You had the power to do that the first time. Why
Yep,
didn't you?
exactly. My thoughts on that statement, and I will say it depends on how you look at it. I think if we look at the whole picture, then he is the worst president in our lifetime. But I
Hmm.
can't say he's the worst president in history when some of the presidents owned slaves.
Right.
And I think that is the part of the conversation that the media is not saying. Like, if you say he's the worst president since slavery, okay. But let's just, like, and I think the media is trying to put black people in their emotions, like, because that whole, if it was black and brown people, that we don't care. So just take black out your headlines.
I think that's something to consider too, because we're quick to say that some Caucasians are racist,
Right.
but when we throw our race out there, we do the same thing, kind of, sort of, in a way, when we throw our race out there. Well, this person only treat me like this because I'm black, or y'all, such and such and such. I think it just depends. I think it depends on behaviors. I think it depends on that person. I think it depends on perceptions. I think it's a lot to take into consideration um, when it comes to the race card.
True. And I think that just at the end of the day, wholly, like the whole picture
Hmm.
is um America, things that's going on, is karma.
Yeah.
Because if you think about, and this is my whole thing, how I rationalize it and stay sane, because I'm real, because let's base this on facts. Um, the land was taken from the Indians, and slaves were brought over here to work it. It's a
Hmm.
whole lot of blood in this land, and depending on what you believe, everybody is different. But I do believe that this, what's going on, the unrest, the craziness, the, I don't know, meth in the air, is karma for certain sins that was committed in order to build, quote unquote, America. And that's how I stay mentally sane, because I just look at things in my Aquarius way.
Hmm.
So with that being said, what are some strategies, practices, or habits, if somebody doesn't think like me, what are some things other people can do to try to stay mentally healthy when, it just, I don't see where COVID is going to end, to where we're back to how we were before. I don't see that happening. So how can somebody stay mentally healthy?
Well, the first thing I would say, and this is going to be big, and some people might not get it, but I would definitely say stop taking things personal, or don't take it personal.
Mm,
Try not to personalize events or things that's happening around us, but not necessarily to us as
mm,
that individual. That's a big strategy. But also, if it if anything interrupts your peace, it's not worth it. So getting to that place to where we're not around toxic people, we're not surrounding ourselves with toxic things, because at all costs you want to protect your peace. You want to protect your energy. 2020 should have shown us that life is too short and we don't have time for foolishness. So I
mm,
would definitely say be aware of how we feel, embrace how we feel, and we could deal with how we feel without confronting someone else if that person has caused some ill will toward us. I like to tell people all the time, when you get arrested, the first thing the cop tell you is that you have the right to remain silent. So that can also help you stay mentally healthy, like knowing every action that someone does doesn't need a reaction.
Mm.
So we have to do whatever is going to take to prevent ourselves, from lacking that peace or that energy. Definitely say try to remain positive, although it might look bad. Definitely try to remain positive. Try to keep the positive thoughts in your head. Try to watch things that are positive. Try to do things that you enjoy doing that will bring you about peace and that will
Mm.
bring about joy and happiness. Um, the pandemic will, I believe, it will eventually come to an end. It's just a matter of when. We don't know when. And I think that's the part that can be scary for us. But as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, such as the washing hands, such as wearing your mask, the social distancing, then I think, we'll definitely be fine. And that's not to mean, become a hermit and just stay in a house and don't live life. You still want to live life to the fullest, but we want to take the necessary precautions that we need to take to live life to the fullest. Exercise, that's going to be a big one that I would suggest too. Definitely make sure that you exercise, because as we can see, a lot of people have underlying conditions that they might not have known about until they got COVID. So definitely exercise. Try to keep yourself healthy all around as a whole, not just mentally, but physically, spiritually, financially. We want to be whole. We don't want to have any missing fragments.
Mm. And I know a lot of people, including myself, you know how they have the, what is it, freshman 15? I know a lot of people have gained what I would call the pandemic 5 or the pandemic 10.
Hmm.
And that's all I'm gonna say on that. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I can say about that part. I won't out nobody. I've outed. I don't know. It's a battle, because I was like, I'm getting older, like
Yes.
it was coming either way. It just so um if somebody's struggling mentally, because I think maybe a lot of people are, because people think therapy, they think, okay, I'm gonna go sit on somebody's couch.
Hmm.
But a lot of that has changed. Um, so if you want to talk about or give some advice for those that are struggling mentally and their therapy options now.
Okay. So what I definitely would say is, we all are allowed to feel however it is we want to feel. Our feelings are valid. However, like I'm gonna give an example. Say for instance, we break up with our significant other and we want to cry because we're feeling hurt. We are aware of how we feel, we embrace how we feel, and then we have to assess, okay, I'm hurting now, I'm crying. How long are we going to cry before we get back up? How long are we going to cry before we keep moving forward? So with those struggling mentally, we want to put in our mindset, okay, this is how I feel, but now what am I going to do about it? Am I going to stay stuck in this place and let these feelings control me? Because feelings aren't constant, they constantly change, but they aren't constant, so they won't remain. Or am I going to do something about how I feel? So we definitely want to do those coping skills that are going to be beneficial to us. Deep breathing don't work for everyone. Counting to 10 don't work for everyone.
Mm.
Meditation works, journaling works, but you have to see what works for you. And you want to do those things that work for you that will bring you about peace, as I mentioned before. So know too that trouble don't last always, and that it won't always be like this. So this is just temporarily. This is just what we see right now, but it won't always be like this, because change is going to come. But will we be a part of that change, or will we not be a part of that change?
Mm. Good stuff. And I do a combination of things just to kind of put it out there. I do my gratitude jar. I just write a quick note every morning, put that in there. Also meditate, sometimes 5 minutes once a day. Sometimes it takes 10 minutes 5 times a day. And I also journal in the morning, first thing when I get up and start my day. And I find that if I don't do those things, then it just like throws my whole day off. And I journal just to kind of get everything out of me. So that would be my suggestions.
Mhm.
Also, a lot of therapists, including mine, you can do live sessions, virtual sessions. Um, so I would say definitely, reach out to a therapist, a counselor, see how you could do some sort of virtual session and those things. And so you could get on your feet or at least on your tiptoe. So
Mhm.
Queen
Definitely
Donna is a therapist.
am.
Yeah. And you can follow her go ahead and give your information so the audience could reach out to you and maybe find out how they could work with you to help them
You could
during this time.
I'm sorry. You can follow me at higher underscore above average 2015, or you can follow me at Gracefully Purpose Counseling. And both of those ads are on Instagram. And I'm also on Facebook at Donna Barnes. And you'll be able to find me. I also have a website, www.gracefullypurposecounseling.com. So you can also hit me up on there.
Yay! Good stuff. I'm trying to help you guys get y'all minds together for 2021. It is not too late. We're not even halfway into the first month. So you got time to make some changes and do some stuff. So what are you struggling? Did you struggle in 2020? You struggling in 2021? What are you looking forward to? Just go ahead and let us know at The Define You on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have conversations that mean something and just ask people how they doing.
You have been listening to DefineURadio After Dark Conversations. If you learned something, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your friends, family, and foes. Make sure you go over to DefineURadio.com and subscribe for monthly giveaways and more.